What up, what up, what up, everybody? It's a new week and a new era, apparently, around the world because a whole lot of brand new information is coming out, or did come out over the weekend, that we have to talk about right now on the stream. Also, out of literally nowhere, my printer is like making a lot of weird noises. It's waking up on a Monday. It heard me, and it's ready to go for the stream. We are live on YouTube, on Rumble, on Facebook, on Locals, on Getter, and on Instagram, and I'm so glad to be here with you guys. I'm also hyped on caffeine. Life is just good, and I'm so excited to unpack all of the insanity that is today's stream. We're going to be talking about the brand new over-the-counter birth control that has officially hit shelves. I saw it in the wild in the United States of America, called the O pill. We're going to be talking about Peru out of nowhere last week, classifying transgenderism as a mental illness. England is set to ban pronouns and transgender/gender ideology, period, in all public schools nationwide. And Time magazine published maybe the weirdest thing I've ever seen about transgender abortions in the state of Florida that I now call home. All of this and more on the stream today. But first things first, you guys know the drill. Please do me a huge favor and smash that follow or subscribe button wherever you guys are watching to help us continue growing these organic channels one day at a time. And let us know who you are and where you're watching from so that we can say hello to you in our live chat. While you guys are putting that in the chat, want to give a huge shout out to our amazing friends over at Public Square, our headline sponsor that helps to make everything possible on the stream. Public Square is a network of almost 100,000 small businesses, all of whom are pro-family, pro-faith, and pro-freedom. If you are looking for businesses to support that share your values, or you are a business owner and are looking for a huge customer base to help boost your small business, you guys need to add your business to Public Square, which you can do right now at publicsquare, all one word, .com. We love you, Public Square. Keep up the great work. We've got people in our chat watching from Peru, which is very exciting. Roy, hello. Good to see you. Lots of people tuning in from Peru and all over the freaking world. Simon is watching in Ecuador. We've got Tyrone watching in South Africa. Samuel's watching in Nigeria. We've got Oxford, England, Chile, Texas, Venezuelan in Canada, Orlando, Florida, Fort Lauderdale. We've got Tennessee, more in Oxford, England, Indiana, Norway, Alberta, Deutschland, Lima, Peru, and more tuning in on Instagram. Over on Locals, Redford, Tito, and Alex Padron are kicking things off for us in our chat. On Rumble, we've got Jim, Chiala, and John Best already letting us know what they are excited for on today's stream. And finally, over on YouTube, always Pooh, Amy V, Total Package, Delane Thomas, hello to you all, and more. We got a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. I want to start with over-the-counter birth control, and I just posted a reel about this on Instagram as well, so if you guys haven't seen that or you already have, it doesn't matter. We want to unpack all of it in longer form conversation because genuinely I am just astounded how little to zero regulation exists to obtain birth control pills in the United States of America today. I have certainly gained quite the reputation over the last years, 2 years or so, talking about my experience quitting hormonal birth control and why it was the single best decision I have ever made for my personal physical health. I've encouraged thousands, if not millions, of other young women to make exactly the same decision. And I'm quite transparent about my educational background as a scientist. I have 2 degrees in biomedical sciences, talking about the knowledge gap that exists even for myself as a consumer of birth control, a user of birth control for a long time because of Accutane originally, and then to manage acne later on throughout my life, that exists between the average patient and the average prescriber of birth control. Most people taking these pills have absolutely no idea what the side effects are, or they are gaslit about the side effects as they are regularly downplayed in professional healthcare settings. they don't really know how to tell you this is what's happening to me because I am taking birth control. But we all have very similar experiences, I've come to learn over the last several years. And every single time I post a video about why I quit or what my experience taking birth control pills was like, I get a flood of thousands upon thousands of comments from people, from other young women all over the world saying, wow, I was so depressed. Wow, I had blood clots. I got cancer. I developed cysts on my ovaries. I gained 25 pounds. I was always breaking out. I started growing facial hair, etc., all because of my birth control experience. And I genuinely thought I was the only one. The more people like myself have been outspoken about our decisions to quit and encouraging more people to be transparent about their experience, since we are constantly told not to talk about the truth behind birth control, the more I am watching both the media and culture, as well as the pharmaceutical industry, do everything they can to normalize hormonal birth control pills and push them on people as much as humanly possible. A couple of weeks ago, we went through on the stream the then viral Washington Post article that was basically gaslighting every single person into staying on birth control, because the only reason you would quit in 2024 is if you fell for stupid right-wing QAnon influencer propaganda on social media from people like Brett Cooper and Candace Owens. Not, reading the side effects on the box of your birth control pills. We know that this has been coming down the pipeline for a really long time. This product we're about to talk about today, that is over-the-counter birth control pills. We know that there are countless celebrities, influencers, politicians, etc., that are trying to normalize this continuously and shove it into the hands of people younger and younger and younger. But even knowing all of that, even seeing how society is responding to so many young women quitting, even knowing how the pharmaceutical industry works, even understanding how much they are trying to push this on people, I was genuinely taken aback this weekend when I was out and about running errands, getting all the things on my to-do list done. It is rare I am home for an entire weekend, and so I was like, let's take advantage of this and go pick up things that I need. I never go to Target. I haven't been to Target since the whole tucking swimwear controversy. Was that 2 summers ago? I don't even remember. I literally have never stepped foot in a Target since then. But I desperately needed toner for my printer, and it is cheaper at Target than it is at Office Max or Staples or whatever. So I go to Target out of the blue. Never go to Target. And as I'm walking out of the office supplies section of the store, I have to walk past the pharmacy and like the Advil, Tylenol, birth control section. Now it's the birth control section. Historically, you would consider that like the tampon section. And out of the corner of my eye, the last aisle before you walk to checkout is where you would buy tampons, pads, women's products, etc., pregnancy tests. And this bright blue box jumps out at me, and I looked and I'm thinking, I've never seen that before. What even is that? Is that like some new brand of tampon or something? No, it is in fact the over-the-counter birth control O-pill. And I take a video of this because I am just shocked. It is on the shelf immediately above Plan B, which is insane that we also sell this at Target now, but and Plan B is nicely locked up in those plastic anti-theft devices, meaning you have to go talk to a pharmacist to understand the side effects of this medication and what it could possibly do to you. But right above the Plan B is the O-pill, the over-the-counter birth control, in a box that looks like this. There's a 3-month supply, and there was also a 1-month supply lining an entire shelf of this Target that I happened to walk into for like the first time in 2 years. And I pick up the box, and it tells you on the box in bold at the bottom there, take 1 tablet at the exact same time every day. In all caps, do not use as an emergency contraceptive. It's FDA approved, da-da-da-da-da. Of course, it's literally 1 shelf above the emergency contraceptive, or what we would call Plan B, which actually is just an abortifacient drug, but we're not going to get into all of that today because we're talking about O-pill instead. No plastic boxes, no anti-theft devices around these boxes. It's literally just a cardboard box about this big that anybody, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what your gender might be, doesn't matter if you're sexually active or not, doesn't matter. Any human being can walk into this aisle, pick up the box off the shelf, and for the low price of $49.99, $50, you can get an 84 tablet supply of birth control. And my jaw hit the floor. I looked at my fiance, who was shopping with me, and I just immediately asked, what could possibly go wrong? No consultation, even from a pharmacist, let alone a physician. Anyone, no ID, no age verification, no consultation with a doctor, can walk into your general big box store today, pick up a box of birth control pills, pay the low price of $50, and walk out of the store. Everybody's saying, no way, this product isn't locked. It is not locked. I posted it as a reel on Instagram just a few minutes ago, so you guys can go see for yourself. You just pick it up and leave. I'm floored, right? Because knowing what I know from my experience taking birth control for 9 years as a patient, and in the extensive multitude of research I've done about this pharmaceutical drug, both in my biomedical sciences academic experiences for undergrad and graduate school, and in why I decided to quit, there are countless multitudes of side effects that makes one think maybe you should probably talk to a doctor before you start taking this pill every single day. Not to mention that it destroys your mental health and your emotional health and all of that, which we will get to. But let's just start with blood clots and cancer and strokes and migraines and dizziness and blurry vision and growing facial hair and gaining a bunch of weight. The question is still out there about fertility issues that may or may not allegedly arise down the line when you take this type of medication every day for long periods of time. But you don't need to know any of that, apparently, when you walk into the store and you pick up this lovely 3-month supply box of O-Pill. On their website, they also can sell you a 6-month supply, not just 1 or 3. This is the first ever over-the-counter progestin-only daily birth control pill. That means that it doesn't contain any estrogen in it, which is a bit of a nuance that I'm sure we'll get into today on the stream. They say it starts working within 48 hours when used as directed. You can start on any day of your cycle, take it the same time every day. Who's it for? O-Pill is suitable for most women and people capable of becoming pregnant. Tells you exactly who their target audience is for this. And notice they don't have this signage in the aisle at Target. This is only if you actually go to their website and scroll to the 6th picture in a carousel of photos that women who have high blood pressure or who smoke or experience migraines or if you've ever had breast cancer shouldn't take O-Pill. There are probably problems associated with your health that you need to talk to somebody about. But we're not going to put a sign up for that when you buy this medication. We don't really care that much. We don't really care. So I see no signs about side effects. I see no signs encouraging people to go talk to their physician when they pick up this box. And I think, okay, I'll go home and I'm sure it's on their website. I'm positive it is there somewhere because legally, one would think if it's FDA approved, they have to list the potential side effects of this medication. Right? Right? One would think. One would think. You scroll on their website, scroll. They tell you everywhere you can buy it, Amazon, Walgreens, CVS, Target, Walmart, Instacart, and more. How to use it. Just swallow 1 pill at the same time every single day. FAQs. All right, maybe we'll find some here. Do I need a prescription? Is it the same as other birth control? What is it? What are the most common side effects with O-Pill? The most common side effects are related to changes in bleeding pattern. Some people may find their period become less or more frequent, shorter or longer, lighter or heavier than before starting O-Pill. Some people also may have spotting or bleeding between periods or stop having periods while taking O-Pill. Less common side effects include headaches, dizziness, nausea, increased appetite, abdominal pain, cramps, or bloating. Most side effects are mild and often resolve on their own. However, if the side effects are severe or persistent, it's important to talk to a doctor. Well, that doesn't sound so bad, right? taking this medication and the worst thing that's going to happen to you, at least according to their website, is some bloating, some cramping, maybe a headache. Every woman ever experiences that multiple times per month because of female physiology. It just doesn't seem that crazy, right? So if that's the worst that could happen, why wouldn't you take this relatively cheap, actually covered by most insurance, medication that's supposedly going to solve all of your problems? I don't even have to go talk to a doctor about it. Well, of course, they say most side effects are mild, and then they put a little exponential number there. 1, to go see the footnotes. So I go to the footnotes. Teeny tiny print that you have to zoom into. There is a link to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration from July 14th of 2023 about the side effects, the drug and safety information of Norgestrel, which is the fancy pharmaceutical name for O-pill. You can't click on this link because they don't actually want you to click on the link. It's actually not a link, it's just text. So I copy and paste it. And I'm redirected to a website, page not found. We're sorry, the page you are looking for is not available because it is incorrect or out of date. So they don't actually want you to know what the not so mild side effects of taking O-pill every day might be, which is not suspicious at all, particularly when, up until now, you've been legally required to talk to a doctor about all of the things that could potentially go wrong in taking birth control. Again, like strokes and cancer and deadly blood clots and problems with your bone density and migraines, the whole 9, okay? Page not found. If that isn't the perfect metaphor for what these people are trying to hide while they package everything in beautiful, fun neon colors and just leave it out for anyone of any age to buy, I don't know what is. So I'm floored continuously, right? I just continue getting more and more surprised, even though I probably shouldn't be at this point. But I look it up separately in a different tab. What are side effects of O-pill from the FDA? Maybe they linked it wrong. They put it wrong on their website. One would think that's probably a legal problem, but I'm not an expert, except I literally am from studying this in graduate school. I go to this webpage. This is the information about the oral Norgestrel tablet that is called O-pill, colloquially, if you go buy it on the shelf, on the website of the United States government, the Food and Drug Administration. They tell you all of the things that it is, that it was approved for a non-prescription oral birth control pill in July of 2023. And then you start scrolling down. Are there any side effects? Well, they say common side effects may include irregular vaginal bleeding, nausea, breast tenderness, and headaches. These side effects are generally mild and often resolve on their own. However, if you experience severe or persistent side effects, it is important to seek medical advice. But they don't tell you what the severe or persistent side effects are. Is anybody else noticing this? Everyone's like, please immediately go seek emergency medical care if you have any severe side effects. But they don't tell you what the severe side effects are. Either the government agency that approved this medication to be available over the counter, or the company that is providing it to you in the first place. Nowhere on these websites are they listing the severe, persistent side effects that might warrant an immediate trip to the emergency room, or you're going to be in really big trouble. Luckily, Healthline, a pharmaceutical publication that talks about all kinds of health-related issues, lists some mild, medium, and severe side effects of this birth control pill. And of course, these mild side effects are pretty serious still. I don't want you to discount them just because they happen to be classified as mild, like irregular periods, for example. Severe abdominal pain, breast tenderness, that can be a problem. Allergic reactions, because it's not concerning at all if you're allergic to the pharmaceutical drugs that you're taking. But the serious side effects that have already been reported with O-pill include migraines, ectopic pregnancies, which can be a life-threatening condition. And if you're not getting your period because you're on the pill and you don't know that you're pregnant, you can die quite easily from an ectopic pregnancy. Ovarian cysts, which are unbelievably painful and easily can cause a whole myriad of other health issues for women. Liver problems. That's casual. It's fine. Your liver stops working. At least we gave you birth control over the counter, ladies. It's fine. And severe allergic reaction, like immediate allergic reaction to the point that your airway starts closing. But yay! Feminism! We got this drug over the counter, ladies. No longer do you need to talk to a medical professional about all of the things that could possibly go wrong in taking this medication. Life's so great. It's so great. And of course, they have to include here, not on the pills website or on the FDA's website, but in a health journal, if the side effects seem life-threatening, because that is in fact possible, or you think you're having a medical emergency, please immediately call 911. But this is postmodern America, right? This is the type of society where we don't really care if you're having an actual medical emergency, as long as it's in the name of advancing supposed women's health care and supposed women's rights. So not only can you just walk into a Target at any age, purchase this medication with no age verification, no talking to a pharmacist, no physician consultation. You can even skip the embarrassment of going in person to pick it up. You can order this on Amazon Prime, free delivery overnight. I can get this at my house by 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. 3-month supply. They don't care who you are. They're not asking for an ID check. I can't even order Theraflu on Amazon without an ID check. Okay? Can we just be abundantly clear about that? You can't buy Sudafed at the grocery store or at the pharmacy without an ID check because they think that you're going to make illicit drugs with it. But all of a sudden, anybody can just buy birth control. That makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. I can't even begin to tell you. Does this not freak everyone out? I'm terrified by this information because it's ironically all happening at the exact same time that people are sounding the alarm on just how dangerous birth control is. And I found out the hard way, like most young women my age, that birth control, at least for me, hormonal birth control, destroyed my mental health far more than it ever impacted my physical health. I was one of the lucky ones. I don't have a sob story of I had a blood clot, I got cancer, I had a stroke, I will never be the same again. And those stories are very real. I get them on almost every single one of the posts that I do about birth control. But sadly, the really common experience that most young women my age have undergone for years and years and years, and we've brushed under the rug and pretended that it was normal, is that my mental health was in the trash can. And I never really thought of it as a side effect from birth control, although, as I've said a million times, I should have, because you can't regulate your hormones as a one-off switch by just deciding to turn off conception, by just deciding to turn off your period. When you mess with and you change the levels of estrogen and progesterone in a woman's body, it impacts everything. Your stress response for good and bad, what things smell like to you, your appetite, how much you want to do your hobbies, who you are physically attracted to, and the type of partner that you seek out, what other people think about you and how attractive you are. You're completely nose blind to pheromones, which is a whole different issue in and of itself. You are much more likely to experience clinical depression, anxiety, and even suicide. And nobody wants to talk about that. Even though, well, I should say nobody in positions of authority wants to talk about that. Even though we are all collectively experiencing this at the exact same time. What really opened my eyes up to all of this was a profoundly powerful book. I've recommended it to you guys a million times, so please go read it if you haven't already, called This Is Your Brain on Birth Control by Dr. Sarah Hill. She is an incredible researcher and a professor at Texas Christian University. Go Horned Frogs. That also happens to be where my sister goes to school. And I could not put it down. I read it in one day. I've read it probably 20 times since then. It was so eye-opening to me about the studies that the medical community is just now beginning to start in understanding how hormonal birth control completely destroys the mental and emotional health of women. But it turns out there have been many studies done abroad about how this is impacting mental health as well. We just don't want to do them in the United States because the pharmaceutical industry, which pays for most of the medical studies in this country, doesn't want to lose their biggest cash grab from women, half the population of this country, that currently exists with hormonal contraception. In 2017, Time magazine published a study that was done by a group of researchers in Denmark. They reshared this from the American Journal of Psychiatry. Again, this was 2017, so years and years ago, long before anybody in America was talking about this. And this group of researchers in Denmark found that women taking hormonal contraceptives like birth control pills, the patch, the ring, and hormonal IUDs, anything that we would consider to be hormonal birth control, which is different from non-hormonal birth control, have up to triple the risk of suicide. You are 3 times more likely to end your own life compared to women who never took hormonal birth control. I'm sorry. What? We've known this since 2017 because of what other countries are willing to research. But to this day, in America, we don't care. We don't care. You can just order this on Amazon. It'll be at your house at 4 a.m. tomorrow. Great. 3 times more likely. And those same researchers ended up reporting in a different study, again conducted in Denmark, because no one in America wants to do these studies, that hormonal contraceptives were linked to a 70% higher risk of depression, which itself is also associated with suicide. So it turns out you are more than 3 times more likely to commit suicide because you also happen to be depressed, which is also independently linked to suicide. This study was a national study that tracked all women aged 15 and up that lived in Denmark from 1996 to 2013. So a very, very long and extremely comprehensive study. They analyzed prescriptions and filled prescriptions for contraceptives, as well as deaths and causes of deaths, and then compared women who were taking contraceptives to women who had no history of contraceptive use. This is one of the biggest studies that's ever been conducted in Western civilization on hormonal birth control, and the findings are astounding. But in the United States of America, Jeff Bezos can sell you birth control on Amazon. You can walk in as a 12-year-old or as a parent wanting to force their kid to take this, or I don't know, as a trafficker, as an abuser, as a predator. Buy this for whatever purpose you want and never even remotely be educated that you might develop blood clots, develop strokes, develop cancer. You might have severe allergic reactions to this. You might experience all kinds of physical side effects, but you also likely will be 3+ times as likely to want to end your own life in the process. But that doesn't matter. Because women's rights, apparently. Because feminism. Because women would have nothing if we didn't have birth control. This is terrifying. And I don't care what you think about birth control. If you are pro-birth control, if you are anti-birth control, if you had a great experience, if you had a horrible experience, at the very least, can we not all agree that you should probably at least speak to a licensed healthcare professional before dramatically changing the entire physiology of your body through hormone regulation? Pretty sure we should all be in agreement about that. But that's not the future that the pharmaceutical industry or big giant corporations or the people in positions of political power giving the green light to those corporations want for America. Newsflash, they don't care about you. They don't care about your health. And this is just the next chapter in their intense effort in America and beyond to destroy our health, to destroy objective truth, to destroy science in the process. If you've had a horrible birth control experience and you don't mind sharing, I would love for you guys to put it in the chat because I'm seeing a whole lot in our chat right now. I want to read a few of these for you guys because it's crazy. We Are One says, I looked completely different during the 6 months that I took birth control. I became completely swollen and anxious and depressed. Miss Katie says, I'm 36 and as a mom, I was just prescribed birth control pills for irregular cycles. I quit after 2 weeks. I'd rather have unpredictable cycles than ever feel that way. Wow. Taya says, it was so easy to get birth control as a young woman. I'm so grateful that it didn't have a lasting effect on me. They literally hand this stuff out like candy to kids at this point, which is insane. Mama Liz says, this doesn't even surprise me. Massachusetts passed a law a couple of years ago that a 15-year-old can get an abortion without parents' notice. So why should buying birth control at Target without telling their parents be any different? Wow. That's crazy. Liz says, I went on birth control for my horrible cramps and it gave me such horrible stomach pain, even when trying different types of birth control. Megan, I took Yaz and it was awful. I was like a zombie. My whole personality was different. My husband and I agreed that I had to stop after only 2 weeks. Carolina says, I almost got birth control to help with irregular periods, and I'm so grateful I have found the truth now. Thank you. Karen, 15 years on birth control pills. I had no clue they were the reason for all of my health issues, including my life-threatening blood clot. Karen, thank you for sharing that. That's crazy. Luna says, I was on Loestrin for 7 years from the age 17 to 24, and I was an absolute emotional mess. My periods actually got worse. My acne got worse. I gained so much unhealthy weight, and at 34, I am still dealing with gut issues. Red 4 says, my wife had a DVT blood clot when she was 16. Ever since then, her risk of developing more blood clots has been elevated. She is now on lifelong blood thinners. Wow. This is wild. Amy V, it made me throw up several times. I threw up all the time from my birth control, actually, when I was a teenager. It was awful. I decided that the side effects are just not worth it, and this cannot be good for my body. No, it cannot. Lexi, I stopped taking birth control about 6 years ago. I would get terrible migraines, couldn't even get out of bed. Girl, same. And they act like that is totally normal. It is not normal. That is so bad for your blood pressure, for everything. I used to get horrible, debilitating migraines. At one point, I actually had to go to urgent care and they had to give me a shot in my butt of painkillers because it was so bad. I couldn't even open my eyes. It was awful. Once I stopped birth control, the migraines went away. She says, same. Very rarely get bad headaches anymore. I do not get migraines like clockwork. This is crazy. But it doesn't matter how many of those stories I ask you guys to drop in live chats. It doesn't matter how many we react to. It doesn't matter how much we can ring the alarm bells to seek the truth on this type of medication. You must trust the FDA because they care about you, because they have your best interests at heart. You must trust Jeff Bezos and the Target CEO and Walmart at all costs because they must have their best interests out for you. You're their customer. Why would they ever want to get you signed up for a lifelong history of medical issues? Why would any of these companies want you to be depressed and miserable and alone? Why would any of them want you to develop cancer and strokes and blood clots to necessitate taking other pharmaceutical drugs? That sounds crazy. Do not, I don't know how to say this as plainly as I possibly can. Do not buy this medication. I beg of you. It is so easy to get now. It was already easy to get when I was a teenager. You could just go to the doctor and say, I have acne, and the first thing that they're going to shove into your hands is birth control pills. I know, I've been there. That was my experience, and it was for millions of other young women my age. But I can't help but think about the younger half of our generation who doesn't even have the opportunity to have a barrier of a doctor there, let alone even a pharmacist. It is so easy to destroy your physical and mental health through taking this medication. And I find no coincidence whatsoever that this type of ease of rollout to make this available over the counter and to just buy it on Amazon or at Target or Walmart, or I heard Costco in my Instagram comment section, which is sad. I can't believe they got to Costco. It is no coincidence that this is rolling out for ease of access at the exact same time millions of women around the world are waking up to realize, I don't need to take this. This is slow release poison. This is not good for my health. I have desperately got to stop. Don't let them take the narrative back. And especially if you are a parent of any kind, of teenagers, of young kids, of college students, please talk to your kids about how dangerous this medication is and how much it can destroy your health. Again, please read that book, educate yourself. This is your brain on birth control. And men, don't think that it's not coming for you very, very soon. Male birth control, hormonal birth control, is rolling out as we speak, both in a shot format and oral contraceptives. And of course, it's also sexist because only in 2024 can you get a headline like this from The Atlantic. New male contraceptives could be infuriatingly pain-free and easy. Why don't women have options like that? It's because of sexism, apparently. But I'm glad you are all just as alarmed as I was walking through the aisle at the store the other day and seeing this catch my eye. It is terrifying what the pharmaceutical industry is trying to sell to you. And make no mistake about it, this is just the beginning. So what do I mean by that? What is just the beginning? Well, we know birth control pills are used for prescriptions for far more things than just preventing contraception. In fact, I think that's probably on the lower end of the top 10 reasons that young women today are prescribed birth control, or I guess decide to go pick it up at the grocery store these days. Probably heavy periods and cramping, acne, all of those things rank much more likely as to why young women are seeking out birth control to begin with. But if the powers that be in society have anything to say about it, I think this is likely the next most popular reason for the 2020s that birth control is being prescribed to help with gender dysphoria. Yeah, you read that right. This was published back in August of 2020 on a pro-LGBTQ plus blog site. And I want you to listen to their argument for why birth control can be helpful. They say regulating or entirely stopping menstruation can minimize feelings of dysphoria. So really the MO here is to just stop your period, to make sure that you don't feel like a woman. Because if the number one thing that is regular and occurring in most, if not all women, every single month like clockwork, is not a part of your routine, then you don't feel like a woman anymore, and it makes it easier to transition you into a man. They say combined hormonal birth control, like the pill, the patch, or the ring, all of those things that also cause depression and suicide, can be taken continuously to skip or eliminate periods altogether, which is a very normal occurrence. I am extremely transparent about my experience on hormonal birth control. I rarely got periods, depending on the brand that I was taking, but rarely did I ever experience a period on this medication, which at the beginning you think, oh my gosh, this is great. This is so awesome. Who wants to get their period? That is not normal. That is detrimental long-term to women's health. But that is a clear objective as to why the pharmaceutical industry might want to be prescribing this to you. Because if we can eliminate periods altogether, in some regards, we eliminate womanhood. However, even if we eliminate periods, people may experience breakthrough or unpredictable bleeding, especially in the first few months, which can worsen dysphoria for some. and a daily pill may serve as a reminder of their dysphoria for some people, so options like a hormonal IUD may be a better option. It's possible that the shot or the implant may stop menstruation as well, but tends to have more unpredictable bleeding. The estrogen hormones found in some types of birth control will not usually translate into feminine changes in the body, but for folks who worry about this, there are birth control methods without estrogen, also including this new O pill. Does not contain estrogen at all. It is essentially a synthetic progesterone that's made from testosterone, actually, which is fascinating. Research has shown that for some, particularly those with a history of trauma, using certain types of birth control may actually worsen feelings of dysphoria. Unfortunately, for some transgender women, the birth control pills are not a form of gender-affirming therapy, unfortunately. But it is an easy way to make sure that you can feel more like a boy, which is precisely the objective of far too many people in the pharmaceutical industry that are realizing the more we start embracing natural health, the more health and wellness becomes a normal part of our culture, the more they have to do everything they can to sell you as a customer a product, pharmaceutical drugs, to hook you for life. I've said this before, and it might be a shock to some people, but in the wake of Roe v. Wade being overturned, for example, Planned Parenthood is one company somewhat adjacent to the pharmaceutical industry that is realizing we can't make money off of abortions in so many states that we were making a lot of money in. States like Texas or North Dakota, for example, or Florida, where I live today. So in order to make up for lost revenue, guess which company is becoming the number one provider of testosterone hormone therapy to teenage girls, bragging on their own clinic websites that you do not need a single letter from a psychiatrist, you don't need a single diagnosis of gender dysphoria. You can walk in and walk out the same day with testosterone in hand, ding, 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 Planned Parenthood. On the national organization's website, here's what they have to say about gender-affirming care. Planned Parenthood believes you deserve high-quality, compassionate health care, no matter your gender identity. Most of our health centers, health center, aka translation, abortion facility, but if they can't perform abortions there anymore, what product could they possibly sell you? Most of our health centers provide hormone therapy and other gender-affirming services for transgender and non-binary patients. Planned Parenthood is proud to be a safe and welcoming place to get gender-affirming care. We offer services to transgender women, that is, men who think they're women, transgender men, women who think they are men, and non-binary people. Services include estrogen and anti-androgen hormone therapy, testosterone hormone therapy, puberty blockers, surgery referrals, transition support, social and legal, or other. And again, if you go to individual clinic websites, they will brag that you do not need a single letter from any healthcare professional confirming that you do in fact have gender dysphoria, but they will let you walk out with testosterone in hand the exact same day. You guys are coming to the natural conclusion, the logical conclusion of this on your own in the live chat. Michelle's says Planned Parenthood is evil. Well, yeah, that's true. But Michael has this to say: a whole generation of sterilized people. Nitty Witty says Planned Parenthood should really change their name to Anti-Parenthood. Yeah, exactly. These people, the pharmaceutical industry selling you birth control pills, the abortion lobby selling you abortions, now the gender theory lobby trying to transition you earlier and earlier and earlier, are all centering these conversations around the same thing: destroying the family, certainly, and preventing pregnancies, preventing conception, preventing the next generation of people from being created, but also destroying gender. And I find this so fascinating that seemingly at first glance, looking at all of these headlines related to healthcare, you wouldn't think that over-the-counter birth control and gender transition necessarily belong in the same ethos, let alone the same sentence. But when I read this blog post, it just totally sent me spinning, thinking about how much they are inherently linked, actually. Because who is really being taken advantage of more than any other group of people right now when it comes to the lies of gender theory? And frankly, I like to call it gender theology at this point because it's basically replacing religion. If we could point out a singular isolated group of people that is the most susceptible and the most vulnerable to falling for these lies of gender identity and gender theory, who is it? Abigail Schreier has written about this extensively. Teenage girls, who right now is probably the most likely to be prescribed or told to go purchase over-the-counter hormonal birth control pills. Teenage girls, for a myriad of reasons, for your acne, for weight gain, for heavy periods and cramping, because everybody else is doing it, or on the off chance that you are sexually active as a teenager. Teenage girls. And if we know this makes you depressed and anxious, it probably is going to impact your likelihood of wanting to unalive yourself. It impacts your likelihood of clinical anxiety and depression. Teenage girls who in America in 2021 experienced a record high rate of suicide ideation. In fact, 1 in 3 teenage girls in America in 2021 seriously contemplated taking her own life. 1 in 3. And they go speak to the mental health community about all of this, psychiatrists. What are they probably likely to hear about? I hate my life. I'm not happy. I'm miserable. I feel awkward. I feel confused. I don't know who I am. I don't know what my new identity is. You are not a girl. You're a boy. Which is why the most likely group of people in America today to say that they think they might be non-binary or transgender is teenage girls. These things are all inherently related. As people in positions of affluence, of power, of impact are strategically working together, linking arms in the United States through the media, through social media and influencers and celebrities, through the pharmaceutical industry, through the healthcare industry, through the abortion industry, through the education system, through the entertainment industry, to convince you of all of these lies at exactly the same time. If you're a young woman, birth control is going to solve all of your problems. Lie. If you're a young woman and you feel awkward and uncomfortable in your own skin, which, let's face it, every single young woman ever in history has experienced, then you're probably not a woman, actually. And we can help you delay that or not even achieve womanhood whatsoever. We'll just make you a boy. Lie. If you think that you're a boy, taking birth control will actually be really good for you, even though, it has all those pesky side effects, but we're not going to list them on the website. Because if you're not getting your period, you might feel more like a boy and be more willing to undergo surgery and undergo hormone therapy and change your name and legally fight against your parents for custody. Lie. And hey, if there is no such thing really as gender because we've convinced you that there isn't, at least not as it pertains to your life, because that was just something that you were oppressively assigned when you were born. If gender doesn't really exist for you, then really, it doesn't exist for anyone. Lie. And if gender doesn't exist for anyone, if men and women are basically exactly the same, and we don't need women and men to get together and procreate and create the next generation of people, we can just do it all ourselves. We can do it in a laboratory, which is why there are startup companies, I'm literally not even exaggerating, in San Francisco, like a company called Conception, for example, that are creating new human beings entirely from stem cells in a laboratory. Entirely from stem cells. No eggs involved in the process. Creating human-like embryos, they are calling them. Lie. All of these things are inherently connected together. And I know, it probably sounds a little bit like I am the guy with the corkboard and the red string, like the meme of the insane guy with the corkboard and the red string, trying to tie it all together. But the point is very simple. If we allow any lie to this stature and to this impact in our culture to take root and to replace truth, then like a stack of dominoes, all fundamental truths begin tumbling down. And if all lies begin replacing truth, it is never easier than in that moment for people in positions of power to control you. Because let's face it, if you can convince people that medication that's actually just giving you depression, giving you suicide, giving you weight gain and blood clots and strokes and cancer is good for you, you can convince them of anything. If you can convince people that they were oppressively assigned a gender at birth by somebody who hates them and wanted to oppress them, then you can convince them of anything. If you can convince people that women aren't really women, they're just birthing people or people with a uterus or people who menstruate, you can convince them of anything. And when you can convince people of anything, you can control them in everything. All of this is on my mind this week while Time magazine published maybe the most pathetic article I've ever seen in what supposedly is a reputable publication. And we're going to get to Peru and England and all of that in a second. But first, I just want to close out what's happening in the United States. We've let lies become truth so dramatically, so quickly, and so intensely in our postmodern American society governed by the radical authoritarian left, in which 2024 looks a whole lot more like 1984 than a utopian future, that this is not an opinion piece. This is not a satire piece. This is an actual headline and article published May 15th, just a few days ago, in Time magazine about abortion policy in Florida. His pregnancy came as a shock. Florida's abortion law made it harder. His pregnancy came at a shock. It's not a typo. I will read just a few excerpts of this article for you. Jasper never considered he might be pregnant. He might be pregnant. Despite the nausea, the stomach pain, the fatigue, the possibility never crossed his mind. He was about 6 months into testosterone therapy, a form of gender affirming care. Because if you've already convinced someone to change their gender, convincing them to end the life of their preborn child is so much easier. It had taken ages to get his father and stepmother on board. Though 18 years old at the time, Jasper lived with them and relied on them for support. But looking in the rearview mirror, he knew treatment, taking testosterone, changing your gender from woman to man, which is not possible, but we'll pretend that it is, was one of the best things that he'd ever done for himself. Feeling the peach fuzz grow on his face, hearing his voice deepen, noticing as his jawline shifted and his eyebrows darkened. It was the first time in his life that Jasper felt truly at home in his body. The treatment made him look and feel like himself. It also meant he barely menstruated. Because if you can take away someone's period, they won't feel like a woman. Do we see how all of this is so intrinsically connected? That wasn't a big deal, though. Ever since puberty, he had never gotten regular periods. Their absence didn't even register. In June 2022, Jasper caught COVID-19 while traveling with his boyfriend's family. And between the viral symptoms and newfound back soreness, It became, through no fault of his hosts, one of the most miserable vacations he'd ever taken. When he returned to Orlando, Jasper kept waiting for the pain to get better. When it persisted a month later, he visited a doctor who still couldn't figure out what was wrong. Nobody thought to check for pregnancy. Then the nausea began, followed by a mysterious new stomach pains. After enduring an additional month of discomfort, which of course they also have to paint pregnancy as this horrible, miserable experience, right? That it's painful, it's uncomfortable, you're gonna hate it. No woman ever wants to go through something like this. It's like this death sentence of a diagnosis, right? That's how they're painting this in Time magazine. After enduring an additional month of discomfort, he scheduled another visit. Maybe, they told him, he had an autoimmune condition. Perhaps it was rheumatoid arthritis, which ran in his family. But the stomach pains posed a mystery. They referred him for an ultrasound. In August, Jasper scheduled the appointment, choosing a Saturday so he wouldn't need to take time off work. He was lying on the table when the clinician broke the news. Well, she said, of course, you know that you're pregnant, right? Jasper sat up. You're joking. The telltale symptoms he'd struggled to place were actually something so simple. Still, Jasper couldn't believe it. Oh, it just jumped on me. Here we go. She showed him the screen. I'm surprised nobody told you because you're so far along. From the clinician's reading of the ultrasound, it looked like Jasper was about 12 weeks pregnant, already through the first trimester. He'd heard about Roe v. Wade being recently overturned because that's the first thing that's going to cross your mind when you find out you're pregnant. How quickly can I take care of this? Doc, let's schedule the procedure. No time in this article to even register pregnancy at all. It's immediately, Roe v. Wade has been overturned. He recently overturned, but hadn't yet learned what that meant in his home state, that as of July 2022, while abortion in Florida would still be legal, the state would begin enforcing a law that prohibited the procedure for anyone past 15 weeks of pregnancy. When the nurse told him, it sank in how little time he had. If Jasper wanted an abortion, he had 3 weeks to make up his mind, raise the money, and schedule not one, but 2 appointments. That spring, the state courts had upheld a law mandating that anyone seeking an abortion needed to make 2 visits to the clinic, the first for counseling and the second, at least 24 hours later, for the procedure itself. He had no idea how long he might have to wait to be seen from a doctor. All he knew was that he had to move quickly. In case you haven't noticed this, by the way, because we're about to talk about how he called his boyfriend. This is a woman who thinks that she is a man who was naturally impregnated by her boyfriend. So just heterosexuality with extra steps, okay? And is shocked and amazed that after you put a penis into a vagina, a new human being was created. Because I thought I was a boy. I'm so sure that I am a boy. When you can convince people of lies, you can convince people of anything. I'll skip ahead because this is a very long article, but just look at how they paint this. Jasper didn't want to tell his family. He'd begun rebuilding his relationship with them, but things felt fragile, and his stepmother, raised Catholic, those darn pro-life Catholics, deeply opposed abortion. If Jasper had to leave Florida, his boyfriend had family in Las Vegas, where abortion was legal up to 24 weeks. For the record, children are born today at 20 weeks and survive. It's tough, but the age of viability gets younger and younger and younger and younger. 90+% of a child's organs have already begun forming by 8 weeks of pregnancy. But because you think you're a boy, pregnancy is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to you. I have to end the life of my child. Period. Wow. Fast forward a bit more in the article. This one really got me. Time magazine, reputable organization for journalism, apparently. The abortion was simple. He received a mild sedative, medication to open up his cervix, and a straightforward surgery to remove the fetus. In case you don't know what a surgical abortion, that's what this is describing, is, by the way, I highly encourage you to go look up videos from Live Action. They have an animated cartoon describing what the procedure looks like. It is not this. It is not as Time Magazine wants you to believe, a safe, easy procedure. It is immensely painful. I'm glad they mentioned that, but it is not a safe or easy procedure. A medical surgical abortion that involves this type of sedative and opening of your cervix actually involves injecting a gigantic needle, much longer than this, but I literally can't even hold it out wider or you guys won't see it on the screen, into your stomach, inducing a heart attack in the child so that it passes away, and then removing part by part by part. I know that's graphic. I know that's tough to talk about, but if you've never seen what a surgical abortion looks like, please take the time to watch one of those videos so that you understand what it is. Because if everybody could watch a video like that, we wouldn't have surgical abortion anymore. And you can. It's out there for the world to know. The abortion lobby is just very powerful in trying to make sure that you don't see those videos. But they have to make this seem normal, right? Especially because this is a man. This is a birthing person, not a woman. The worst thing that could possibly happen to this person is to feel more like a woman and to give birth to a baby, because that's what moms do. And this isn't a mom. This is a boy. This is a dad, but he doesn't even want to be a dad. So we go through this immensely painful experience to open up his cervix, and then it was over. Jasper's boyfriend had picked up pho from the restaurant they both loved, and the two watched TV in bed all evening. Over 7 days, Jasper had learned he was pregnant. He was pregnant. Processed the news, scheduled an abortion, and after 2 visits to a clinic, terminated his pregnancy. He didn't regret it, but the feeling stayed with him, a nagging voice asking, what if? What if he'd been able to give birth and put a child up for adoption? Could he have become a parent, young as he was? He'd never had the chance to consider. He wished he'd had more time, but that was a luxury nobody could afford. Really? Over a week? You didn't have an opportunity to consider that? It shouldn't even be a consideration. But the media can't have you believe that. The media can't harp on the what if. The media can't harp on, we know this is wrong. Everybody knows that this is wrong. Because nobody is willing to admit we have allowed lies to become truth. Related to birth control, related to gender identity, related to pregnancy, and yes, related to abortion. We have to believe the lie. Because if we open up just one of those boxes and say, hang on a second, maybe this isn't the right thing to do. Maybe we're lying to ourselves and to other people. Maybe this is wrong for humanity. Maybe we are doing something wrong. Then the entire domino lineup would fall for the left. Then all of the lies would be exposed. And they can't afford to allow that to happen. At least in America. And this brings us to what's happening this week in Peru and in England. Because as shocking and disturbing and alarming as the trajectory of the United States is currently on this issue, the pendulum is swinging. And I think it's because people, ordinary people, are saying enough. And they are not just swinging, but shoving the pendulum as hard as they can back to objective truth, back to reality. I feel like I have to sneeze. Hang on. Maybe not. I've had the sneezes today. I think it's because it's so freaking hot in Florida. Why we're struggling with excessive heat warnings, I don't know. Hang on. I think we're good. For now, we're good. Ordinary people all over the world are saying enough is enough. Peru made history, and I know we have a lot of Peruvians watching the stream today, which is very, very, very fun. Peru made history last week by officially classifying transgenderism as a mental illness, as mental health problems in a new law. There is massive backlash around the world to this, and even inside of Peru. I also think it's absolutely fascinating that everybody is realizing that Dylan Mulvaney took a vacation to Peru last year to flee supposed persecution in America against trans ideology. And then mere months later, Peru ends up classifying mental health disease over being transgender. Fascinating. But just a few days ago, Peru created a new law. It's a Supreme decree signed by Peruvian president and published May 10th, updating the ministry's list of insurable mental health conditions to include transsexualism, gender identity disorders, and cross-dressing. What does that mean? It means the government officially has created a new distinction under government-provided health insurance to the Peruvian people that your insurance covers mental health conditions like transsexualism, gender identity disorders, and cross-dressing. I find this fascinating. Fascinating. This is in complete defiance of the World Health Organization, which in 2019 said that gender identity is not necessarily a mental health problem, but instead says gender incongruence is instead a condition related to sexual health, not part of mental and behavioral disorders. But Peru doesn't give a flying you-know-what the WHO seems to think. And frankly, at this point, most people probably don't after COVID. On May 11th, the Peruvian Health Ministry released a statement insisting that the update is to ensure comprehensive mental health interventions. They said the ministry ratifies its position that gender and sexual diversity are not diseases. In this framework, we express our respect for gender identities, as well as our rejection of the stigmatization of sexual diversity in this country. But we're going to be treating this as a mental health disorder, which it always has been in psychiatry, in the psychiatric practice of healthcare provision, and we are going to make sure that our citizens receive the care that they actually need, not just gender affirming care, blindly pushing people off the cliff into insanity, but trying to ask them, are you sure? Trying to understand that they can receive adequate healthcare coverage under their insurance for that type of treatment. And saying, no matter what the rest of the world is doing, we are not going to follow suit. In Peru, the pendulum has swung. Also last week, England, who I have a bone to pick with for various other reasons, but England comes out and says, yeah, we know we were like the first people to lead the whole child gender transition thing along with all of the Scandinavian countries, but we already banned child gender transition a few weeks ago, and now we're not so sure we want to teach this in schools anymore. England is now set to ban gender identity in all public school curriculum nationwide. Children up to age 18 at schools in England will not be taught gender identity under new government proposals published last Thursday amid growing concern in the UK and elsewhere about transgender issues. The move follows a landmark review which last month urged extreme caution. They basically outlawed prescribing hormone treatments for young people grappling with gender identity issues. England's Tavistock Gender Identity Clinic, that was specifically aimed for children's gender transition, it was run by the NHS, the National Health Service, actually closed its doors just a few months ago in March after years and years of criticism from around the world that it had been way too quick to prescribe puberty blockers, to prescribe hormone treatment to minors, and even surgical intervention as well. And after an internal review of their practices, the entire clinic just decided, we are closing our doors. We are not doing this anymore. We will not be transitioning children. They are not the first European country or only European country to do this, by the way. In 2020, Finland said that psychotherapy needs to be the primary treatment for adolescents with gender dysphoria, actual mental health care instead of surgical transition or physical transition through hormones. 2 years later, Sweden said we are not doing hormones for kids anymore except in exceptional cases. In Norway, they consider youth gender medicine as treatment under trial, meaning hormones will only be prescribed to adolescents in clinical trials. In Denmark, brand new guidelines are being finalized that limit hormone treatments to transgender adolescents only who have experienced childhood dysphoria since early childhood. So countries all over Europe are already saying, we were the first to do this whole transition kids thing, and now we're going to be the first to say, we really effed up, and we're not going to do that anymore. But England is actually taking this a step further and saying we are creating updated guidance for our education system, including clear age limits for the teaching of the most sensitive content, specifying that the contested topic of gender identity should not be taught. Are you ready? Because it gets even better. They are very much allowing truth to replace lies right now as we speak. The proposals will also ban sex education for children under the age of 9, following concerns that some of the material being used in schools have been wildly inappropriate. The National Association of Head Teachers questioned whether the government's proposals would effectively protect the children, but they did all of this, and the Prime Minister came out because parents were coming forward talking about being exposed to disturbing content that their kids were learning in schools. The Union of Teachers says we cannot ignore the fact that some children and young people are already accessing information from different sources outside of schools, but they admit this is all happening at school for kids under the age of 9, and it has got to stop. We are not doing it anymore. And just for a little added bonus, the new guidance also includes additional content on suicide prevention and the risks of viewing content promoting self-harm online, particularly for, ding, 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 young girls, who in America we seem to just be shoving into the idea of suicide by prescribing you medication or just telling you to go pick it up at the store. That makes it all that easier by trying to transition your gender before you've even finished going through puberty, by isolating you online, etc. But in the UK, they are not having it. So very, very soon, Brits across the pond, congratulations. England is set to ban gender identity teaching in schools. The pendulum has swung in England too. So here's the point, the key takeaway, the real message that I'm trying to share with you today. Yes, America has lost its marbles. Yes, the powers that be, from people older than ourselves, from people older than our generation, are desperately trying to make Gen Z and Gen Alpha, who comes after us, the birth control generation, the abortion generation, the gender dysphoria and transition generation, the suicide generation, the depressed generation, the anxious generation, the hopeless generation. But good people all over the world are realizing what the true agenda actually looks like. That if you can convince people of such powerful lies that are all directly interwoven together, you can convince them of anything, and therefore you can control them in everything. And it doesn't matter what your nationality or your citizenship is. If you are a person, you desperately crave freedom. You crave peace. You crave meaning and purpose. And if the powers that be, if the pharmaceutical industry, if the government, if the entertainment industry, if the media, if your doctor, if your teacher, if everyone is collectively working together to destroy your purpose, to destroy your health, to destroy your trajectory and freedom in life, then it takes ordinary people by the masses to stand up and tell the truth in a society that is trying to reject the very concept of truth to begin with. Because lies can only replace truth if we let them. If we let them. And at least in Peru and England and Denmark and Norway and Sweden and Finland, lies are not the future. The truth is. So the question is up to us, America. Do you want an O-pill, testosterone therapy, men getting abortions future in America? Or do we want a future that is constantly chasing goodness and beauty and truth? It's up to us to chart our own path. In our last couple of minutes on the stream, I thought it would be kind of fun to do something a little bit different. So hang with us for a few more minutes. I am getting married, which is crazy. And I know I've told you guys that a million times. But as of today, I am getting married in exactly 40 days, which is crazy. And I have a lot of things to do between now and then. But the last time we did a dating oriented stream, you guys had so much darn fun. And everybody told me that they wanted more info and context about me getting ready to get married and all of the prep work that I'm doing and everything. So I put a question box on my Instagram story asking people to put in questions that they might have related to my wedding prep. If you guys are watching the stream in the chat right now, if you want to ask a wedding prep 40 days out from your wedding related question, we are here for it today, and we'll answer just a few more questions in our last couple of minutes on the stream. So drop all those questions in the chat, and we will start with a few questions over on my Instagram story. Tariva asks, have you chosen your dress? Yes, I have. And I'm actually picking my dress up on Thursday. It has been going through all of the alterations rounds and is finally ready to get picked up on Thursday. I'm so excited. It is literally the perfect dress for me. And I actually really struggled. I got down to the last 2 dresses and they were so different, like complete polar opposite dresses, and I had a really hard time picking which one I actually wanted to get married in. So I ended up picking this one. We had some zipper issues along the way, but it all worked out okay, and I'm so excited to pick it up. But my fiance won't even let me show him the dress that I didn't pick because he is so certain that he wants to be completely surprised in 40 days on our wedding day. So I can't show any of the pictures to you guys. Everybody's asking for a dress reveal, even the ones I didn't pick, and I can't post them until after we get married. So you will see, I promise. 222 Reem has a great question. How have you found waiting for marriage? I'm sorry if this is too personal, but I am finding it really, really hard. I love transparency about this topic, and Brock and I talk about this a lot, so I would love to answer this question for you. Of course, there are definitely difficult aspects of waiting for marriage, but I have actually found it to be a really glorifying experience in knowing and constantly being reassured in just how much respect my fiance has for me and just how much respect I have for him. Because the really easy thing to do would just be not to wait. But the fact that we have to have a little bit more jurisdiction over our actions and that we have higher thought and self-control over things, is a good exercise in fortitude for any single person, but also just goes to show that we respect and honor and love each other so much more than just the instant gratification of physical intimacy, that our relationship has to be about a lot more than physical intimacy. And so we've taken this time to talk about all of the things that we want to accomplish in our marriage, the values that we want to live out in our marriage, the things that we're most looking forward to, and planning all kinds of stuff that you don't necessarily think about as you're getting ready for your wedding, like finances and how you're going to raise your kids and what their education is going to look like and where do we want to live and what does our boundaries with our external family look like and all of those things. And I think if we were constantly caught up in the physical intimacy aspect of it right now, we wouldn't be spending that much time thinking about the long-term longevity of our intimacy outside of just sex, if that makes sense. So I always love reminding people, even if you have not waited until you got married at this point, it is never too late to start waiting to get ready for your marriage and to pledge a vow of celibacy to each other until your marriage, your wedding night, which is going to be a beautiful experience. And of course, there are difficult aspects of that. I'm not going to pretend like there's not, but I also think it's really shallow and pathetic when our society basically tries to tell people that you're just an animal and you have no self-control over your desires and immediate wants. And sex is just completely impossible to wait for and completely impossible to avoid. Sex is beautiful. It is, as described by my high school morality professor, and I love this description, the closest thing we have to what full intimacy with God is going to look like in heaven. So of course it's something that we should celebrate, but it's also something that we need to be really careful to safeguard and protect within the right situation. And if a man is unwilling to say that he wants to wait until your marriage night or your wedding night, or a woman is unwilling to say exactly the same thing, then chances are they don't really honor, love, and respect the entirety of who you are and your identity. So it's never too late to start waiting now and hold out for the person that is going to continue waiting with you. Jay has a question, honest question. What's the best way to find out what kind of engagement ring my girlfriend wants? Help. Jay, I hope I can help you with this. It's a tricky business, but I am a big believer in genuinely just asking her straight up, hey, generally speaking, what type of engagement ring do you think you might want? I'm not a huge fan, and I wouldn't say you should take her engagement ring shopping with you, because I think that takes away some of the fun related to surprising her with this beautiful ring that reminds you of her and is specifically the one that you picked out. But this is something that the woman is going to be wearing for the rest of her life, every single day. So you want to make sure that it's something she likes and generally adheres to her style and what she likes in terms of jewelry. So there's no shame in asking her, Jay, to send over some inspo pictures that I guarantee you she has saved on her TikTok or her Instagram or to a random Pinterest board somewhere. That's exactly what I did to my fiance. I said, this is basically the direction I want you to go in. And then he took it upon himself to work with a ring designer and create something very similar, although a little bit different. He put his own twist on it. And I absolutely love my engagement ring. He did a phenomenal job. If any of you are looking for a place to get your engagement ring, I highly, highly, highly recommend a company, amazingly out of California. Not a fan of California, but different story for a different time, called Katie Anderson Diamonds. You can find her on Public Square. And so many of you guys have probably seen, I'm not wearing it today, but the little diamond 1776 necklaces that all of us girl conservative creators wear all the time. She made those. She made my engagement ring. They make all of their rings essentially at cost, and anything you pay beyond that is a donation to her business, and they provide free engagement and wedding rings to military families who can't afford them. So cannot recommend them enough. She's amazing. She can make absolutely anything your heart desires. But definitely no shame in asking your girlfriend for some general ring inspo pics, because she's the one who has to wear it every single day for the rest of her life, and you want to make sure that she loves it. Little Mrs. asks, my brother is getting married soon. How can I help without being imposing on my future sister-in-law? Great freaking question, because frankly, every single bride everywhere needs a lot of help, but also doesn't want to feel like they are relinquishing their dream vision scenario for their wedding to what everybody else wants. So I would say to her up front, I'm so excited. Tell me about your vision for this wedding. What exactly are you envisioning when you close your eyes and you picture your wedding day? And then how can I help you achieve that thing? Of course, you can provide her suggestions and ideas and whatever, but I think at least in most of my friends' experiences and my experience and my cousins and all of that, the most common thing that I hear from people is that weddings often become where every single person in your life, even people who ordinarily don't have an opinion on the things that you wear, the things that you do, and how things are decorated, every single person is going to have an opinion on every single tiny detail. The napkins, the lights, the seating chart, what dress you're wearing, all of it. Like, you don't even know is all I'm going to say. So if you want to be a great, great sister-in-law, and I'm sure she will be so appreciative of this, ask her to describe her vision and her dream for what all of this looks like, and then how you might be able to help her achieve that and bring that vision to life. Nitty Witty has a fun one. What are your thoughts on mixed gender wedding parties instead of just women for the bride and men for the groom? I have seen a lot of people do this where you'll have like a bride's man or a groom's woman. It is becoming very, very increasingly popular, and I've been to lots of weddings where that has happened. It's never really like bothered me per se. I do think there is kind of an aspect of like you're setting a new tone in your marriage, and it would be odd for me to continue having like very intimate, close relationships with single men who are not my husband or married men who are not my husband. I also didn't grow up with a lot of girlfriends growing up, and so I have totally cherished this experience of having a really beautiful group of women that I can share my wedding with, and we'll have a fun bachelorette party a couple of days before my wedding, and we'll do all of the wedding things related to each other as women, because it's a really fun, special, unique experience that I never really got to have a lot of close female intimacy in my life. So for us, it was just kind of a no-brainer. Women on the women's side, men on the men's side. And I do think it sets that new expectation of respect and support for your fiance, in knowing that it would be weird if like my husband has a really close intimate relationship with a girl who's not me, whether she be single or married. I would think that's a little weird in my experience, but other people I know do it differently, so I think that's interesting. Lori says that she knew somebody, your niece just did that, but the guy, the man of honor, was her cousin. That's a little bit different, in my opinion, than just like a friend, but that's just me. That's just me. Lots and lots of congratulations. Joe has a last question for us, and then we will wrap up the stream for today. What is your wedding theme, if you have one? Generally speaking, the decoration theme, I don't really have like a coherent theme for the whole thing, but the decoration theme is inspired by the Colorado mountains and kind of a summer camp vibe meets elegant wedding. That's all I'm going to say, I think, because I want to leave the rest of it a surprise, and you guys will all see, I'm sure, countless of photos and videos and everything, but it has been so much fun to plan, and I cannot believe we are only 40 days out. It feels so surreal and so exciting, and I just want to say that if you are somebody who is thinking about marriage, if you're thinking about this as your vocation in life, or you're thinking about proposing to your significant other or whatever, it is so beautiful being in this season of preparing for marriage, especially in a time that our culture and our society is so hell-bent on trying to attack it all the time and make it seem undesirable or anti-feminist somehow, or a trap from men. Like, my fiance and I have grown so much as people, and especially in our spirituality, in the experience of being engaged, and I have no doubt it is only going to continue to deepen and be so filled with joy and purpose and meaning in life that I never got to experience before. So if this is at all something that you are considering for your life, do it, because it's amazing and is so much better than being half in, half out in the dating pool that everybody is trying to convince you is a good experience, because that sucked. Let's be totally honest. You guys, keep telling the truth in a society that desperately needs us to. Share this stream with anybody who doesn't know just how crazy the whole hormonal birth control situation has become in the United States. And especially if you are a parent, talk to your kids about the O pill. Friends don't let friends buy over-the-counter birth control, okay? And friends also don't let friends continue feeding their dog absolute crap, because if you really care about your dog, you should care about their nutrition too. Huge thank you to our other sponsor of today's stream, Rough Greens. Rough Greens is an additive, not a total supplement, for your dog's existing diet that works kind of like a protein powder. You just take a scoop of it and put it right on top of your dog's food, and it is chock full of antioxidants, minerals, vitamins that all help to work together to make your dog the healthiest that it possibly can be, supporting their bone density, their joint health, their coat, their digestive system, their immune function, and more. We use Rough Greens at our house with my best friend, Liberty, who this sign behind me, you guys can't see it on Instagram, my corgi neon is inspired by, and she is my absolute best friend in the world. It has made a world of difference in her health, and I know it's going to impact your dog's health for the better too. The amazing team over at Rough Greens is giving you guys a free Jumpstart trial pack. All you have to do is cover the cost of shipping and handling. If you go right now to roughgreens.com, RUFF greens, one word, .com, you will get hooked up and it will change your dog's life for the better. Smash that follow or subscribe button before you guys go, and avoid O-pill like the plague. Seriously. It's no bueno out there, but the pendulum is swinging, and it's all because of people like us. Love you guys so much. We're back for the stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. See you then.